A inteligência é um mistério. As melhores cabeças das finanças quebraram a economia global. Os líderes mundiais, por mais inteligentes que sejam, não sabem como impedir a mudança do clima que ameaça o planeta. E todo dia a gente se pergunta, como é que eu posso ter sido tão idiota? Nos anos 80, o psicólogo Daniel Goleman lançou o conceito de inteligência emocional. Ter empatia, saber se colocar no lugar do outro, é mais importante do que um QI alto. A ideia dele se espalhou pelo mundo e hoje a inteligência emocional é estimulada nas escolas. Goleman continuou a expandir o conceito de inteligência. Agora ele estuda a inteligência ecológica. Como mudar o nosso comportamento no dia a dia para resolver os problemas do planeta de forma inteligente. Daniel Goleman falou ao Milênio no estúdio da Rede Globo em Nova York.
You started your study of intelligence, which is much more than just being smart and IQ, by looking at self-deception, which explains why smart people do dumb things.
Well, self-deception is when there's something, some very important fact, for example, or a very important reality that is upsetting to us, and so we deny it inside our brain. The mind can play tricks on itself quite easily. We can not notice and not notice that we're not noticing. That's self-deception.
Yeah. So what is emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is a different way of being smart. It means that you're not just good in school, you're good in life. It means that you manage yourself well, you can do what you have to do, not put it off, not procrastinate. You're self-aware. You can keep really upsetting emotions from getting in the way of what you have to do, but still you can use your passions to motivate you. You empathize with other people, you sense how they feel, and you put that all together for effectiveness in life, whether it's in your marriage or with your kids or with your friends or at work, leadership. It turns out to be extremely important actually in companies because although you need technical skills to get into a job and you need a certain level of IQ, once you're in that job, what will determine whether you're an outstanding performer or whether you rise to become a leader is your emotional intelligence, not how well you did in school.
You have started this movement for emotional intelligence. You're like the prophet of emotional intelligence. And I'm fascinated by this fact that in San Sebastian, Spain, they teach emotional intelligence in schools. How can that be taught in school?
Emotional intelligence has to be learned, in fact. We don't come programmed with it. You know, the brain is the last part of the body to become fully developed anatomically, continues to grow into our mid-20s. The last part of the brain to become mature is the emotional and social circuitry, and the brain is shaped by repeated experience. So what a child goes through day in, day out with mom, with dad, at school, shapes that child's brain. And we can help children be better at self-discipline or at persistence or at handling their emotions when they get upset. And if we do that methodically, if we do it systematically, and there are many school programs that do that now, then children become more effective in life. They get better what's called executive control. That's the part of the brain, the prefrontal area, becomes very well-shaped, you could say, so that they're able to manage themselves in life, they're able to empathize, they're able to handle relationships. All of this can be taught, and as you say, it's a global phenomenon now. It's around the world. There are programs in schools that start, at age 5 and go to age 17, where they teach children self-awareness, how to handle emotions, how to focus on your work, how to empathize, how to get along with other kids. And those are the lessons that matter enormously for a happy, successful life.
You report about this experiment, the marshmallow experiment, where 4-year-olds that couldn't restrain themselves got the marshmallow instead of waiting for 2 marshmallows. And 15 years later, the same kids had a very bad performance compared to the other kids.
The kids were told, you can have this candy right now if you want, but if you wait till I run an errand and come back, you can have 2. The big difference was between the kids who grabbed it right away and just gobbled it down, and the kids who waited 3 or 4 minutes and got the 2. And not only did they get along better with their friends, were they still able, as they're about to go to university, to delay gratification, which that's really a test of. It's a test of impulse control. But they had remarkably higher scores on their academic achievement tests. And this is because even at that age, the ability to handle your impulse and to delay it for a good reason, which is a sign of maturity. Some define maturity as extending the gap between impulse and action. These are the kids who are best able to do it. These are the kids who have best executive function, prefrontal function, and that allows them to focus on their studies. That's why the better grades allows them to really tune into their friends and get along well, and allows them to manage themselves well. So it's an actual indicator of emotional intelligence.
But the good news is that even emotionally obtuse people like me can get better, can learn, right?
This is the great news, is that emotional intelligence it grows throughout life. It doesn't stop. You don't stop learning in childhood. You can learn it at any point. And if somehow I doubt that you're that obtuse, but if you're finding people saying you're a little bit, and you start listening to that and start paying attention and trying to do better, trying to be mindful. Okay, I should pay more attention to this person. I shouldn't just cut them off and say what I say, for example. You can learn. You can learn at any point in life to get better at this. A lot of coaching now for top executives is exactly about this.
Oh.
Well, one of the worst habits of top managers or managers of any sort is they don't listen. You could call it obtuse, but they just give their opinion. They don't take in information. They don't understand what's really going on with this person, what's upsetting them. That means they're less effective. People think that they don't understand, and they don't because they don't get information. So an executive might be coached on how to become a better listener, for example, how to wait to say what you're going to say till you really understand the other person. But that takes effort. That takes some persistence. But if you do it regularly for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, it becomes automatic. And that's the kind of change you want.
So some people are so self-absorbed that they really can't listen to other people. But emotional intelligence is being self-aware. It's the opposite, right?
That's a wonderful distinction you make between self-absorbed and self-aware. Self-absorbed means you're focusing on thoughts about me. I'm preoccupied about this thing that's upsetting me, or this thing I want from the other person, or some other thing completely. You're distracted, you're daydreaming. In other words, you're not really noticing the fact that you are self-absorbed. Self-awareness means you would notice that. Say, oh, I'm being distracted now. I should really pay attention to what's going on. And it's a critical distinction, because if we're just lost in our thoughts, swept away by our emotions, do whatever we want, then we have no self-awareness. And it's self-awareness which allows you to manage your emotions better, to manage your life better, because only by first monitoring and noticing what's going on in your own mind can you take any control.
The first step in any 12-step program for recovery, starting with Alcoholics Anonymous, is the elephant in the room thing. That, first be aware that we have a huge problem, an elephant in the room that is killing us. Let's do something about it, right?
Well, in addictions, you see self-absorption at its worst, because people are not only destroying their own lives, they're damaging the lives of everyone close to them. And a lot of crimes are because of addictions and so on. And the road to recovery, the road in AA programs, for example, starts with self-awareness. You have to see the problem, admit it's a problem, realize the consequences of what you do. If you don't have that first capability, if you have no self-awareness, you just can't change. But if you do, that opens a new door for you.
I love this phrasing in your books, making the invisible visible. It reminds me of Freud, and it's fascinating that you are an American psychologist who quotes Freud, which is not very common, making the unconscious conscious. So is this coming from Freud?
Well, Freud was the first major thinker to talk about the power of the unconscious, the power of what we don't know, when we don't notice and don't notice that we're not noticing. So, for example, with alcoholism, with addictions of any kind, shopaholic, whatever it may be, The danger is that our unconscious mind is running the show, and we have no idea. We're just like puppets of whatever, conflict, need, impulse is at the helm. And it's only by first noticing what's going on that we can do anything to change. So I think Freud was a